So we wanted to come at you guys with this idea that we are more than just DFS. We are more than just NFL DFS, but in an organic way. And then what ends up happening is you open up before you say, hey, do you have a topic? Do you have an idea? And then we end up with like 20 ideas. So the way we were going to do this is just like the five most important topics of our week and just kind of go through it and get you guys' quick thoughts. As we get bigger, I'd hope to do this and kind of open it up to a more question and answer kind of segment. I have to say, I was very impressed and very appreciative of what Evan did last show with his Dynasty show. That has not got enough views. And I don't think it was because it was a bad show. I just think it was different. Look, there's not a whole lot of Dynasty content out there, so I do think it's going to have its day on the internet, and I do think that came out very well. And I don't know if you've shown it to your league mates or you've used it as a recruiting tool, but seriously, I thought that was some really good Dynasty content. So if you guys haven't, if you guys just happen to, scramble across this on a Friday night, that was a really good inside look at a Dynasty league from a commissioner standpoint. And I thought that episode came out really well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Logan. And I think just being March 1st is the likely reason why it hasn't caught on as quickly yet, because we're just in this weird in-between phase right now where it's not officially the off-season, but it's pretty much the off-season where a lot of people just put it all aside and focus on fantasy baseball or focus on Jeff Jarrett's WCW forgettable run.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just pulled up Twitter Sports, and this is one of the headlines. Like, that kind of tells you the dog days of what it's
Red Wings are going to make some noise in the playoffs, and this is the gift you put. Like, I don't know what they're getting at, but I kind of want to watch hockey now to figure it out. Well, because that's all I can tell from that. It's like, I know who the Red Wings are. That's about it.
Well, that's kind of the magic of gifts in general. Speaking of changes, though, this is not the smoothest of transitions, but the Patriots did see a change this offseason. And a lot of people thought May was going to be their quarterback. It looks like Daniels might be their quarterback. We obviously know that, Bill Belichick is no longer there. Speaking of 90s relevancy with the WWE reference. But, Donnie, what are your kind of 5-minute thoughts of the Patriots? If you can summarize it in 5 minutes.
Well, off-season wise, I'm very happy so far. We have players coming to bat for Mayo, which is nice. Hunter Henry re-signs on a 3-year deal. Kendrick Bourne's expressed interest in re-signing. We hit Duggar with the transitional tag, which, though risky, if you don't know the risk to it, you will lose out on a chance of a comp pick or anything like that if he goes somewhere else, but we now have the chance to match any offer he gets. Only the 6th time a comp pick or a transitional tag has been used on a player since 2010. So, probably reasonable because it's such a risk. But I don't care about how the draft goes because I'm not a scout and I'm not watching college football. I don't really know. Everything's a guess for me.
So what I haven't heard from you so far, Donnie, are the rumors of the Mac Jones potential interest in a trade. What do you read into that?
That seems completely legit to me. I think now, I wouldn't be shocked if a team like, the Vikings don't want to risk signing Kirk Cousins and they say, we'll give you a 5th for Mac Jones, and then you end up having Mac start and draft a rookie and see if Bo Nix develops.
So they're not going to go for Trey Lance?
No. Gosh, I'd hate that. I just... Didn't Trey Lance just re-sign with the Cowboys too? I think he got a new contract.
There was another rumor that said that the Vikings were potentially interested in Trey Lance, and I don't know if there was much substance behind it.
I don't think so. I've heard Vikings...
I keep hearing like they're really interested in Baker.
I'm not hearing that at all.
Minnesota's former GM was work in Cleveland and really likes Baker. They know I think that's what I've been hearing is Minnesota might go for Baker. Who knows?
Yeah, I've heard stronger rumors of
Atlanta. Honestly, and I've heard Atlanta. Atlanta's the crazy one because I've heard that they're going for Cousins, but I think like they should go for they should trade and get Justin Fields because I'm Marietta, Georgia.
Before we get into Bears topics, but I am starting to buy into the Justin Fields. Maybe isn't as good as we've been hyping him up, but that's a different point.
Well, I mean, like to be fair, like
NFL GMs aren't buying it.
Like, Justin Fields is not known as a running quarterback for all the rush attempts and like 1,000-yard rushing seasons he's had. So, like, you're not really asked. The Bears have like not really asked Justin Fields to do what he does best and get better at it. They've asked him to do something he didn't really show in college that he can do, which is scramble around and make a fucking play. And he's had to do that and get injured for like 4 years. Because Chicago kind of sucks. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But
like, so I could definitely see Justin Fields. Like, I could see Justin Fields doing well staying in Chicago. If they were to just like trade the first pick down, like you trade the first pick down to Atlanta so they can take whoever they want for the 3 so that you get Marvin Harrison at the 3.
Oh, and another Patriots point I forgot to make is they also signed a tackle. Now, I don't know how the free agency rules work, but a former third-round pick from the Steelers comes over to the Patriots on a cheap deal. If he's a backup, we are desperately in need of anybody who can play tackle. So I really don't even care if he's bad. We just need somebody who can step on the field. God forbid something happens, which it will happen because our offensive line's full of guys who get injured a bunch.
Yeah, I don't have a ton really to say about my Chicago Bears because Ryan Poles and the upper management have done a really good job at being hush-hush about what they're doing unless they want to try and feed in a narrative to try and up their leverage for trading either the first overall pick, the 9th overall pick, or possibly both. It's still up in the air what they could do with those picks, and rumors flying around that they're not going to potentially get the draft picks they want for Justin Fields, which that doesn't surprise me at this point because, they're not going to – Poles is not going to be selling either of those draft picks for cheap. It's going to be a lot of hardball.
After what happened last year, they're not going to get the draft capital they thought they were going to get for the number 1 overall pick. Like last year, you got to remember, basically what they did is they swapped the number 1 to Carolina, who had like 9 or something. I forget what it was. It was like 7, 8, or 9. And they got that plus another second plus a
first and DJ Moore.
Plus the second we got from San Fran plus DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting anywhere close to that for this first round pick. And that's probably going to be their big problem because they think that they can probably get something like that. So they're going to be looking for something close to that for Fields. They're going to be looking for a first and a player for Fields.
Yeah, I've heard just bad things from the combine, though.
Trade him, but they're also not going to get that first and a couple of seconds and a player from any team for that number 1 pick this year. They're not going to get someone like they got my fucking Panthers.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if that was still the bar at this point. And I don't blame them for
And I don't think it is, but I'm not sure if they've shown anything that says that they don't think it is.
Yeah,
that's the point, though, is that they've done a very good job at remaining hush-hush about what they're doing. So
that's true.
It's really hard for me to comment.
Yeah.
It could, but I don't know if it's worth keeping Fields because it seems like almost every NFL GM has gone very cold on Fields very quickly. And the only people defending him is social media.
Like, remember last offseason when every GM went cold and would not pay Lamar his money? Like, this could just be a thing. Like, okay, everyone go cold on Fields because no one wants to show their hand. Right. Be like a team all of a sudden is hot on Fields. Now Chicago might be able to get that first and a second for him, or that first for him. They might be able to get that deal closer for that team that actually wants him.
You totally hit on it, Gavin. It's similar to, we mentioned the draft, and I'm glad that Donnie openly admitted that he's not the biggest college scout or prognosticator. It's because that's what happened a lot in the draft too. Is general managers will send out invites, or interest basically to interview or to evaluate or to do some kind of assessment, Wonderlic kind of things, and ask questions, get, information from players or, their kind of background or idea. And a lot of times you'll find that the general manager will actually not want to talk to the person they're drafting as a smokescreen to throw them off the scent. So I do think that does happen when it comes to trade talks, when it comes to the actual engagement of franchise defining trades and these type of things. I do think there is a lot more interest for Fields than is being portrayed.
Well, my thing is a lot of like these reports were also like anonymous for one.
Right.
We don't know who which GMs it's coming from, but it doesn't seem like it's the GMs that are on bad teams that need a quarterback.
Well, it's like if Gov ran a restaurant and had a bunch of great porterhouse steaks, I'm not going to tell Gov the upper price I would pay for that porterhouse steak. I'm going to let him set the market, and then if I think it's affordable, I'll go into his restaurant if I think it's worth it. But you don't want to bid against yourself, and so I think that's why a lot of times the general managers or even infrastructure or teams will kind of stay quiet.
Yeah,
I don't think
people might call collusion on that, but like, no, that's just smart business.
Right.
Yeah. And that's also why I said I think it was either the last show or the one before, where that's why I believe Justin Fields started unfollowing the Bears on social media and then started following a bunch of players on the Steelers and the Falcons. I think that is a part of that overall plan to see how much they can, how much of their hand they're willing to either show or not show to try and mess with the other GMs around the league.
And the Steelers, to me, are an organization that just do what they do. So I doubt they're going for Justin Fields myself.
It's going to be Russ.
Atlanta should be where he goes because he's from Georgia. Like, that is what you should do.
You remember that they were really high on Watson. When Watson was available, they tried to trade a lot for him.
Like, to be fair, that offense is kind of like a quarterback away. Ritter and Heineke were garbage last year. You put Fields with London and Bijan and Pitts, like,
and
you
Algier,
actually
honestly.
give him, and like you actually like you just those three, you've given him legitimate weapons everywhere he needs. They just have to produce.
And that was not all on Arthur Smith either.
Yeah. Like, that's like them producing is not all on Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith giving Tyler Algier and Jonnu Smith and God, who were the other wide receivers?
Well, Jonnu Smith, I don't know if you saw it.
All these other guys just kept getting snaps and like first read fucking targets. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, Jonnu Smith actually just signed with Miami today.
They needed a tight end too.
More speed. He's so fast, if you didn't know. So Dolphins have completely gone into this, I'm going to have the fastest team in the world, and good luck catching us.
Oh, thank you, Bijan. We appreciate it.
Speaking of catching, Bijan did have a statement for fantasy owners this week. But in all honesty, whether it be this message or messages, I do think there is a time, especially in the content-driven like ecosystem of YouTube, or just like, oh, I'm a fantasy guy, or like even I'm a believer in DraftKings, or I'm a sports person. It's almost a pressure of like, well, there's no NFL, or there's like this NFL or NBA time where it's like NBA is important, but we're not in the playoffs yet. So then you guys, it's like weird in between space where you're like, well, I gotta have an NFL take. I gotta say who I think is going to be in the top 5. But if you're not a big college guy, it's okay to be like, you know what? I'm not paid to do this. My job is to be a fan. And part of my fandom, like Donnie admitted, is saying, hey, I'm a fan of the NFL, not of NCAA. I think a lot of times people, especially this time of year, they do a deep dive in college, and then they come on these podcasts and try to have these, grand statements like Caleb Williams is a bust, or he's, and I don't want to do that. What do you think is like the one thing you can do though, like today, Gov, that would help you prepare for week 1 of NFL DFS? Is there anything like, maybe it's staying away from all this news? Like, that's what I'm saying is like,
if you're trying to prepare right now just for NFL, it probably would be to stay away from some of these things. Yeah. Let things solidify a little bit. Like, if I'm preparing just for NFL, all I really want to do is like I wouldn't even start until after the draft.
Yeah.
Maybe even
Well,
until like OTAs.
There was very important NFL news that came out today as well, Logan. I have it up on the screen. The NFL handed out the comp picks for this draft.
I pulled that up as well. I pulled the history of the comp picks, and the team who has the most throughout, I think, the last 10 years is the Ravens. But you can go ahead and get
the Niners have 5, which is the most this year. One of them being from...
Yeah, their staff keeps getting poached, so they keep getting comp picks.
Well, one of them, I think, is Chase Young, one of the third rounder. They traded a third rounder for Chase Young and got back a third rounder if he leaves.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's exactly how it went down, and everybody was screaming about how that was this enormous discount for Chase Young.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible for a discount. That was really smart of a trade for the Niners. I don't understand where the Commanders came up with such a deal. It's awful. I mean, that just goes to show how these Commanders are run. But
and this is with the brand new management, too.
This is with the brand new management. That was weird. That was just such a weird trade. And I think the Sweat trade was awful as well. But at least you got stuff for him. The 5th round picks, they really handed out a lot to this year, though. Saints and Eagles.
Donnie, but be honest, speaking of picks, like I mentioned it earlier and I kind of alluded to it with Gov, do you feel an obligation as a football fan, as a lover of the NFL, to have a draft take, or do you feel like even you haven't been in this position much in your life? Now the Patriots have a top pick and a maybe franchise defining pick. Do you feel like, oh well, I'm not the biggest college guy, but I have to almost have a college take here? I have to get people my insight
because their college career means nothing at this point. What matters is how they play in the NFL.
I appreciate that. I wanted that from a younger perspective, a guy who's pretty plugged in.
To me, you could be the greatest college player of all time, and if it doesn't translate to the NFL, for me, it doesn't matter. Now, for the player, I'm sure he's nowadays made millions of dollars at that point and whatnot. But
yeah, and worst case scenario is that somebody with a lot of hype behind him, like a Caleb Williams, turns out to have a Ryan Leaf career.
Well, okay, so we pinned it at the top of the show, Evan, and I kind of alluded to it because I really do believe it was a good show. How does a dynasty guy like yourself look at do you feel more pressure to do deep dives, even though I know you're not a huge college guy? I think you do watch some of the primetime games and you're kind of plugged in, but you're not you're not a Daniel Jeremiah, a move the chains kind of believer where you're consuming all the content.
No, and not for the college level especially, as it's just plain not in my deepest of interest, because I went to a D2 college with no football team, so I don't feel like I have a dog in the fight when it comes to college football. So I'm not as in tune with it as others are. But at this time of year, I don't take the combine too seriously, and I don't take data too much more seriously than a grain of salt, because it's still very early, and my rookie draft is not going to happen until July anyway. So the NFL draft is what I want to look at, and then just follow up on the news and see how they're doing at training camps over the summer. And that's why I love having the rookie draft in July, because you get a better picture of where they're going to fit in.
Well, I want to say I'm probably the most plugged into college right now because I got the most time to consume it in with the gambling angle. I do think there's some edges to have in college football. Besides some of my biggest friend groups, they're big believers in college. They actually watch more college than professional. So it's kind of my way in back with them and to have a social circle. But I can tell you, even though I know a lot of the prospects' names and I know some highlights of them, the college game and the NFL game are not the same. It really is a biological difference. They play the same game, theoretically, I guess. The roots of the game are the same. It's obviously still a football and a pigskin and all that, but they're very evolutionarily different. And so I actually think the more you dive into college, the worse your takes sometimes get.
The prime example of this is out of the 5 quarterbacks in the first round that are probably going to get drafted.
Yep.
J.J. McCarthy's the only one that was able to do audibles and checks and whatnot at the line, really. He was the only one doing that consistently throughout his whole college career. And he is probably best, the best thing you could think of. It's the same thing as picking Mac Jones a couple years ago.
Well, I'm not even saying you shouldn't watch the college film. You should, I respect this man named Mike Renner, who's kind of in between jobs right now. He used to work for PFF. He is a really good draft analyst. And what I think he does very well is he watches the college game, but he watches it literally through the NFL landscape, meaning he watches the game again after their career is done in college with the idea that they're going to get drafted. So he doesn't watch any game film until they've already declared for the NFL. So that way he watches them as if they're pros. So he's watching for pro tendencies. He's not watching the game, as a college fan. I think there's a big difference between that.
Yeah, and the thing about college too, that's like you need the guy to be one of the best athletes on his team usually to be a successful NFL player. But if they rely too much on that athleticism, then they're now not going to translate probably, and it's just so hard to do.
Well, Gov, we see this too, and I think we do see this a lot in DFS. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you know how like after the draft, they'll immediately give teams a letter grade. They're like, oh, he got a B, he got a C. You know this as well as I do. The moment after you draft or select your team with that salary cap, that 50K, people want to spend all the money because then they feel like their team is stronger. And then nobody wants to admit like, oh yeah, I hate that pick or that was a bad pick. Everyone thinks they have a millie team.
Well,
there's a lot of times
fans out there that'll be like, "What the?"
Josh Allen was booed when he got drafted.
Like how I felt when I'm like, "Okay, please just take Jesus. Please just take Stroud, Bryce Young."
I feel like a lot of picks get booed nowadays.
A lot more than you might think.
But I'm saying like but even if they get booed, I'm saying like the instantaneous like reaction is just so. It's become toxic to me in the sports world. Whether we are, because I guess in a DFS lineup, you obviously feel good about your own, but there's still that instantaneous of like, check my lineup out. I mean, me and Gov are part of plenty of DFS communities, and one of the most screenshot things you'll see in those communities is check out my lineup I just built, or look at what I was able to do. But yet, comes Monday morning, we don't see that many screenshots of all that green dollars those lineups are won. So I do think people like to do this as a thought exercise, but I don't think a lot of people admit that we're not scouts.
And like I don't mind Xavier Worthy breaking the 40-yard dash record at the combine at 4.21, which is better than John Ross. Great job to him. I'm happy for him, but
he hurt himself doing it too.
Well, not just that, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, great, you're fast. Do you have great hands? Can you run routes well? How's your NFL IQ? Like, I want to see the rest of what he's got to offer.
I will say he's got more of an NFL future than John Ross does because I do think he does more.
If he stays healthy.
John Ross played pretty overall well when he was healthy in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonably.
But he was not that bad, honestly.
No, but I'm saying like there's more of a pedigree of success. It wasn't like Mitchell was just fast, but there's also the evolution of the game. He knows what he's got to do. He knows what and they utilize players differently. So it's really hard to tell. I mean, at some point we're arguing decades of information. It'd be like comparing LeBron James and Michael Jordan to Kobe. It's like different eras. We can recognize greatness, or you can recognize a prospect, but the way the offenses are utilized is just different.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. People have gone back. I don't know if I'm sure Logan hasn't seen this trend. People are going back and watching like 90s basketball, and people are starting to figure out that. I haven't watched any of this film, but a lot of the internet is saying that Michael Jordan didn't have much of a left hand.
Well,
people are killing 90s basketball right now. That is how the internet's going.
That was legit the script on LeBron, though, too. Like, the actual script in the playoffs was like, force him to his left. He's not good. That's where he's bad from shooting. That's where he's bad from driving. Force him left.
But that's kind of the evolution I'm talking about. If Michael Jordan played in today's era, let's be honest, social media might take that man out. Like, there's a lot that would have changed, like, culturally in the way we perceive things. So like, who knows, how things will win. I mean, I don't even know how they would have defended LeBron James differently because of the physicality of the game if he played in the 90s. So there's really no way to know.
A lot of people criticized LeBron James when he was fresh out of high school for his jump shot. Everybody's got their weaknesses coming into the NBA, and even during the NBA, people are just not going to be as good going one direction compared to the other.
Yeah,
So that's just standard
People
shit.
have a dominant hand. Like it's sign of a fucking thing.
Yeah, no, it's really funny that this is what the internet's come to. And a lot of people are very upset about it. A lot of these older generation players. But they're also the players that have bashed a whole generation of basketball at the same time. So I'm kind of just locked into the fact. I think it's rather hilarious that this is what it's come to.
Here's what I find weird about that, though. It's like when we beat the drum for either one of these kind of arguments and why I don't like to participate in them. It's like when
I like watching it.
Well, yeah, some of that you watch it for the chaos, but while you're promoting one version of basketball, we have to demote the other, and I find that to be very strange. Like Nikola Jokic is one of the best big men to ever play, right? But then people are always like, well, it's because of the offensive creativity of the big man these days, and like he's able to have the ball in his hands and walk the ball up the court, and obviously that leads to more assists, and like his coach allows him to run the offense, and Shaq's even talked about it. If he ran the offense, if he was a point center, he thinks he could do a lot of the same stuff, and I think he might be able to.
Yeah, so I saw young Shaq run up and down the court. Yeah. He probably could have.
There is something to that, to say like the way the player empowerment movement and the player freedom has opened up the game for the better, right? That is a true statement. To say like, oh, Shaq would have been better than Jokic had they been in the same role, like that's part of it though. They're not in the same role. There's evolution, and part of that evolution has to start from growth. Like we can't just plug in these like.
I will say though,
narratives after the fact. Go ahead, Dan.
60s and 70s basketball, I don't give any credit. That is garbage. I cannot give credit to that.
That's not garbage at all. It's a different era.
It's completely different era, and it's just there. That does not hold up at all, though. At all.
I know what you're saying is like it doesn't represent basketball to you, and that's fair. But I'm saying like to their point though, you're not going to get to the 2000s basketball, even to the 90s basketball, without the black and white footage. It just doesn't happen. There is a natural progression to things.
Old Philip J. Fry meme says he's a basketball fan, disregards the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like the NBA basketball has just changed so much over every single decade. It's changed.
Well,
I agree.
Really think about it.
Every decade is its own thing.
Every decade, we've had like one player come in and completely change what basketball is. Every single day. And now we're probably looking at it right now with Wembanyama or Jokic, whatever you want to say.
Jokic is the one coming in like, well, that's the thing. Cause like who came in like the 2010 to 2011 range?
Steph. Yeah, I was going to say Steph, right? But that's like 2008, 2009, right?
Right. Because like LeBron came in 2004.
Yeah,
so I was giving all the way through his Heat run in like 2012, basically. That was the LeBron 10-year decade.
I would say Steph deserves some credit.
Even though LeBron's played 20 years.
Even though there's no...
But yeah, you're right. So then it was the Steph decade.
Yeah.
Then it was Jordan before that.
No, I think before that it was...
Kobe.
No, 90s was... Well, yeah, Kobe, LeBron.
2000s.
90s was ruled... See, that's the thing. The 90s was crazy because it was ruled by Jordan. But to be fair, the guys that were the men in the 90s were Shaq and Hakeem Olajuwon and the Admiral and
right.
Stockton and Malone.
Morning.
Ewing. Ewing. Like, there were so many studs in the 90s, but you're right. It was just killed by Jordan.
Yeah.
And Jordan took it from Bird and Magic in the 80s.
Yeah.
Who occasionally got clipped by Detroit every once in a while, but they took it from Bird and Magic in the 80s.
And then before that, you have Kareem. And then, like...
Well, that's the Bird Magic in the 80s is the Kareem era. That's the thing.
Well,
you think about it. Before that, you're getting to what you disregard, the 70s ball. You're getting to Dr. J. You're getting to
but there's like that one player that always
Prime
seems to be
Wilt
like
and
so
stuff like
physically ahead of everybody.
That's where you're getting to like Dr. J and Wilt. That was your late and early 70s.
Exactly.
And then the period before that was just Bill Russell for like 15 years.
And then some dude who's out here averaging 50 to 40 a night.
Yeah, but like that's you want to break it up into 10, 15-year periods based on one player. That's the NBA. It was Bill Russell to Wilt to Dr. J to Kareem Bird versus Magic being clipped by Isaiah every once in a while. Then Jordan took over for 14 years before you get this LeBron and Kobe, LeBron and Steph, LeBron.
And now it's going to be Wemby
and
Joker.
And
Embiid.
Now it's the Europeans. It's Wemby, Joker, Luka.
Also, while we're talking about Wemby, did you know the internet found clips of Wemby's younger brother, 16 years old, 6'8", and he already led his France team to a title. So,
well, I was going to say, before we even get into even the Bill and Wilt generation, let's not sleep on Bob Cousy.
I'm building around Europeans anyway. Orlando's got Franz and Banchero and like.
Do they still have Franz's brother?
We have Mo.
Mo?
Yes.
You still have Mo?
We have Franz and Mo. We have Goga. We
still need to talk about this Denver.
We need the next great European guard to replace Fultz and Suggs and shit.
Well, let's come full circle.
Or I need to just trade for Luka. That'd be great. Can Luka play in Orlando? Love for Luka to play. Can Luka just play in Orlando? He'd love the Magic. He looks great in blue. He should just stay in blue and go
Luka Magic. It just works.
It'll be so much easier in the Eastern Conference. Like I've paid.
Tatum's better.
I will say
probably not, but like they haven't really gone up against each other to like prove that. But Tatum has like gotten chance. The weird thing about Tatum, he has gotten all the chances in the world to prove that he is better than name player. And if he's not bailed out by someone else on his team, they usually lose the series because he can't do that. And that's what he's shown like the last two games.
I can't stand for
like
this hate.
The last two games, he's had bad games. He's needed the rest of that team, which apparently is an all-star stacked team with Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Holiday and Porzingis. And Holiday has monster game. You still lose in Detroit to Joker. You still lose to Cleveland. Like it's.
We're not the 73-9 Warriors, geez.
But it's those games those are playoff teams, and you're supposed to have your strong road trip right now. And this is what happens. Tatum is a no-show in these games, and you lose by like you were up 20 and lost in the fourth quarter, and then you can't beat the defending champions in Denver, even though Jaylen Brown, your number 2, is as a monster game.
A lot of people did not have a perfectly great game.
Not everyone does every night. Like,
but when you have Tatum not show up, your bench and Hauser, Pritchard don't show up. Xavier Tillman's getting minutes all of a sudden.
That happens too much with this team for me to put it. It happens too much, and you change the coaches out. I have to start blaming Tatum for not taking over this team. And getting this shit done.
Everyone looks at Tatum as the leader now, and we can definitively say
he has to be. He has to be.
Though?
Yes.
Because
I also don't believe in Boston.
I have a question. So the February 24th game where the Celtics needed overtime to beat the Knicks, Jason Tatum played 43 minutes total, only took 15 shots, 2 for 8 from downtown, and had 4 turnovers, and he did okay on defense, 2 steals and a block. How do you only get 19 points out of 43 minutes?
Just sort of being there, letting everyone else do everything on a night where
he doesn't want
to give it or can't give it or whatever the problem is.
He does not try and take over
that
every
as
night.
My number 1. That's what my argument has always been. There's something like this that makes
in the playoffs. He does more of the takeover stuff, but he does not try and take over every night. He does not care about his stats at all.
You think he does more because it's a microcosm. Like he only really I'll admit there's been plenty of games this year he's gone off. So like what he did in these last 2 games is it looks like an anomaly. because he did it 2 games in a row. But if you look at it over the course of a season far back and then extrapolate that to the playoffs, you know he's like in a 27-game playoff run to go to the finals. He's screwing off 5 of those games, according to his
he shoots a lot. That's the one I always complain about this with Tatum.
I know
he shoots a lot,
but then the games he doesn't do everything else. Like the games he only shoots 15 times.
I need him to drive more.
I drive more, whatever. Like 15 times, I don't like. He needs to get free throws, all of that. But like, if he's not gonna shoot it 22, 25 times and be that guy, then he needs to go full Draymond with it, with that size. I need him, like, if he's going to put up 19 points in 43 minutes, that needs to come along with 15 rebounds, 11 assists, and 6 blocks or steals or both.
And he's also been one of our better playmakers
like you said,
this
he
year,
gives you like 2 and 2 and like he helps a little bit, but like he should be doing everything else if he's not scoring.
I want to make this point, and I know
why, like, Jordan was Defensive Player of the Year.
Let's not slack on Tatum's defense, please.
But has he ever been Defensive Player of the Year? Has he ever been thought of?
LeBron was never Defensive Player of the Year either, though. Like, it's hard to win Defensive Player of the Year, especially when Rudy Gobert's dominating it.
That's true. When a guy has like something like that, but
get better.
Rudy Gobert also had, I was about to say, get good. Like, come on, like make yourself known.
I do want to make this.
I've never thought of Tatum as the defensive lockdown guy.
I do want to make this comparison because I think it's fair.
I always thought Marcus Smart was a better defender than Tatum when he was on Boston.
Marcus Smart.
Sorry.
I mean, Marcus Smart was a Defensive Player of the Year.
He is now in that black hole down in Memphis. Like, I almost want to send it back to Vancouver and hope it does better.
Hold on, let me wrangle this back up now. Speaking of black, the team that the Celtics team reminds me the most of, and I know Donnie's a historian, so this is a bit before his time, but he'll be okay with this. And Gov can probably attest to this as well, because it was a new prime, I guess, for basketball. This Celtics team reminds me a lot of the 90s San Antonio Spurs, right? And Tatum reminds me a lot of Tim Duncan, where it's like he had the numbers. Everyone in the league respects him. No one disrespects Tatum. But no one's ever going to consider him one of the greats in his time because the team around him is always good, but they don't rise. Like, they rise together, which kind of evens them all out. And that's where I think Tatum is. He is the best player on his team. I don't think he'll ever be considered the best player in the league, just like Tim Duncan was never. That was Kobe. That was Shaq at times. That was other big men. Tim Duncan was always there.
Now, also, let's not forget, Jason Tatum's 26 years old.
He's about hit his ceiling. One more year or two, he can get better, and then he's basically that dude for the next decade or however long.
And he's a top 10 player in the league.
But
no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's hard not to argue. It's hard to argue against that. But then I look at everything else, and it's like, yes, he's a top 10 player. Because right now, I'm not sure that there's anyone better than him except for the 9 other really great star players I'd want to build around.
That's why I think he's Tim Duncan. I think he is the 10th guy of his generation, but I don't think we'll ever see him win the MVP because I don't think he can extend to that level.
Draymond said it as well. He won't win an MVP at least till he wins a championship. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, like at this point, Tatum doesn't put up the numbers.
He has been so successful
for him to have an MVP,
early on.
Like, if he put up the numbers he normally did, he might win MVP if he already won a title and they were just trying to give him an MVP.
I don't like the MVP award because it's just stupid to me. Because it's so driven by media.
I don't even like rankings, and we can, because I know Evan's not the biggest basketball fan, we can bring this into a wider sports discussion. I think this is the problem with ratings. It's because Tatum will never get his flowers because people will always want to make him like the best guy in the league, and I don't think he'll ever be the best guy in the league. I don't think he ever will. But his consistency will make him one of the greatest to ever play because he will consistently be that guy for the remainder of his career. So Tim Duncan really is the best comparison I can make for his ascension and like fandom, because I mean, for sure, I think he's a Hall of Famer. For sure, I think he'll get the credit. He'll be a Celtics, Ring of Fame guy. He might even flirt with a MVP. But the thing is, if people
He
want
has flirted with a couple MVPs at this point. He's been top 3 before.
And I don't think I like that Tim Duncan comparison either. It's just not the same.
It doesn't feel right to me either. Like, I get what you're trying to make, but like
because the championship hasn't come yet.
It might be like, Evan, like, are you like me where it's like, to be fair, Duncan was as good. Like, it's hard for me to say he's 10th because Duncan really was. Like, if you weren't LeBron, Kobe, and then eventually Steph,
yeah,
I might have had Duncan 4 in that era.
Duncan was clearly the best on that Spurs team, where Tatum seems like, based on the numbers
Like,
here,
honestly,
I need to watch more Celtics games.
If LeBron never shows up, it's Duncan's era, not LeBron's decade. It's Duncan's 10 to 15 years, not LeBron's.
But LeBron
And
did.
it honestly, like, it's hard for me. It's weird because, like, I give LeBron a 20-year period, and in that 20-year period, he had rivals, and those rivals were sometimes like it's hard to say they were ever better than LeBron because of how good LeBron is. But Steph got the better of LeBron. Duncan got the better of LeBron. It sucks. I feel like Kobe would have if he would have got a crack at him. Like, it's like, that's, I think, the biggest knock against LeBron is like the true peers he's faced in his 20 years. It's not like LeBron's dominated him. If anything, it's back and forth.
I guess
he won one, he lost one against Spurs. He won one, he lost one against Steph.
Steph is a little bit crazy though.
In a 7-game series against
let's not talk about Steph ones too much, because I mean, one year he went to a game 7 without his 2 co-stars basically.
No, I agree. There are always accentuating circumstances on stuff that stop teams, but like LeBron has been consistently good with his teams to get all those finals, and in those finals, he's faced what are the peers that we would agree would be the best players of that 20-year period.
One finals he lost. The second best player is Matthew Dellavedova.
We were just explaining it with players, and then we get to this 2002 range and on, and it's basically been a full 20-year period of like, yeah, LeBron's been there, and he's been going up against Duncan and going up against Steph and going up against Dirk and all these other teams that have also been good all this time. It's like, I actually really like Dirk. I have Dirk in my top 10. Like, just the last 20 years, just since the year 2000. Mm-hmm. Who do you actually have in your top 10? Because I have Duncan like 3rd and Dirk in my top 10.
That's what I was going to say, though. I don't. That's kind of the point. Is I don't think these top 10 rankings are fair. Or even
LeBron, Duncan, like 1, 2, 3 in that 20-year period.
Evan, I just want to say this to your point. With the Tatum might not even be the best player on his team. I
actually didn't finish my point.
Yeah, well, finish your point, and then I'll get to my point then.
Yeah, so, I mean, Tatum is clearly an elite player on the Celtics who has the luxury of an organization that gave him Porzingis, gave him Brown, and Drew Holiday. I'm amazed is even on an NBA roster at this point. This is the best I'm looking at numbers for him. I don't know enough about White.
Develop Derek White into something.
Yeah, and White too. Tatum is clearly benefiting from a complete team, which is what you want, which is also why he doesn't appear to be like the guy that stands out from the Celtics, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in today's era because I don't watch basketball. But go ahead.
I don't want you to take this as an insult. But Boston is like Pittsburgh. They are a very solid organization, and they're going to do their own thing. And they're going to win titles doing that. But do they have the right guys right now?
Well, I think Jaylen Brown's the wrong guy. That's the thing. I don't
agree.
think Jaylen Brown's the right guy.
I think, and you see that. Like, look what like I said, that's why I pointed it out. He had a massive game against Denver. Didn't matter.
The guy we need Porzingis is the best we could get, but we needed a guy to play a Porzingis-like role, but better. Not Jaylen Brown. But, Evan, just to, Tatum significantly leads the team in scoring and significantly leads the team in rebounding and also is right up there leading the team in assist. So it's, and has played almost every game all season, which not a lot of stars can say.
No, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, you look at the stats, and like he's actually putting up numbers. He's really good. He could, if he had good stretches against teams in marquee games, he might win MVP. But then he comes out and does that against Denver. And the night before, he loses by 20 when they were up 20 against Cleveland.
The problem the Celtics have had for years now is they randomly disappear. But the issue with being a young team is you play very emotional, and the Celtics are even with some veterans,
and
they are still so young.
And that's the problem. At no point in time do I think they're young. They've had all these deep playoff runs. They've kept this core together.
Exactly, because they've been so good, but they're still so young.
That needs to get over the hump.
But Jordan didn't win his first ring until he was almost 30. Bron didn't win his first ring until he was almost 30.
I was about to say, Boston is not Cleveland or New York or OKC or Minnesota or one of these like younger teams that's trying to make an upstart. You're essentially the Heat. Like that's what you are.
See that
you're an older, experienced team that just happens to be older in their late 20s instead of older in their mid 30s.
We're in our mid 20s, not late 20s. Which is when most players win their first ring. Most players win their first ring in the late 20s.
But again, we're romanticizing errors. Let me make this point. So, Evan, if you could play along with me here, it doesn't even got to be real, but I think you can probably come up with this on the top of your head. What's your 3 favorite foods? Let me just prove this point. Like, if you rank your 3 favorite foods, what would they be?
Fucking hell. All right, let me think about this. Pizza is going to be number 1.
I swear to God.
I agree.
Thank God. I was about to say, if you didn't say pizza,
I just had that tonight.
On this podcast.
No, I want you to take this as serious and have as much fun as you want, but I do have a point when you finish.
Okay, so pizza, hamburgers, I'm going to put at number 2, and then fuck it, we'll say French fries at number 3.
That sounds really.
It's unhealthy and horrible, but I love cheat meals with that.
See, mine goes.
Sorry, go ahead, Logan.
But you see how your hamburger and French fries go well together, right?
Yep.
And yeah, you could put ground beef and you could put French fries on a pizza and make it taste good, for sure. But there are different versions of that number 1 topic that you probably prefer. Maybe pepperoni, you want some cheese, So even though those are your 3 favorite foods, they don't all go together. You wouldn't all want them in one consumption. That you'd want it spaced out. You'd want some understanding and some gravity. You wouldn't just eat that all day long, for your 3 main meals for the rest of your life. And that's the problem I find with a lot of these rankings is we have a top 10, and then we end up debating the stupidest semantics over just being like, here are 10 guys that I like. And this is the reason I like them. We always have this argument of who's better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan, when really the truth is they're both great. They both have their place at the table, if you will. Just like your favorite foods, it's a time and a place thing. Or
their careers have gone differently. LeBron's had the luxury of never having a major injury that's kept him out. Jordan broke his foot in his second year.
Right. Now,
and he couldn't beat Bird, baby. All right, I'm sorry.
No, for example, if I
Actually, he did. He fell on Bird's back and ended his career.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
But so
Bird saw him practice at the Olympics and was like, "Nah, dog, it's now."
And then, if I ask up his top 10 favorite movies, some of those movies in that top 10 probably would not be appropriate to show my 8-year-old nephew. So there's
number 5, South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
So, but that's exactly
number 4, From Dusk Till Dawn. Number 3, The Matrix, the original. I really like that movie, actually.
That's a good one. But that's
number 2,
point.
Can I shock you all for a second?
Before Time is the greatest children's movie of all time. It's at number 2 on the list.
It is probably
and my number 1 favorite movie of all time. I will watch it whenever it is on. Insert Star Wars movie here. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I shock you all for a second? I've never seen The Matrix.
Dude, you gotta watch the first one, at least.
I tried to watch the first Star Wars and I hated it so much. I hated the first Star Wars so much.
No, he's right.
I need a moment.
Because I know you would enjoy it. Like you like Back to the Future, you like that kind of.
Oh, see, this is perfect because now I can segue into the topic I want to talk about. Because them be fighting words, Evan. So, like, do you want to be the pre-fight match to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson on Netflix?
Oh,
like,
God.
Are you ready for this?
Oh, no.
If you're ready for this, are you ready for this?
Oh, my God.
Boy.
Seriously,
I guess we
let's
have to
end
dive
the
into it.
Let's end the show with. That's why I'm like, let's end the show. We can talk 10 minutes. I want to
Let's
hear
do that.
because, oh my God! Like when I first heard about it, I'm like, yes and no all at the same time. What do you, like? I think Tyson can knock the fucker out.
Okay, I'm not trying.
Like I know Jake Paul is a legitimate boxer, and his trainers don't usually put him up against fights that he can't win. But if this is just Jake Paul knows it's his last fight, and this is the money grab on Netflix. Man, Tyson's not going to want to lose that fight.
I think I follow combat sports the most of anyone here. So let me give you my take. The most fun thing about this matchup is that you can make the argument that it is a circus for both combatants, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, because you could say, hey, Jake Paul's 27 years old. He hasn't fought tomato cans. He's fought some MMA guys. He's fought some like low-level boxers. He's actually taken
a lot of old guys a lot.
Yeah, like he's fought skilled guys, but maybe not like prime guys.
Yeah, he's fought skilled MMA, but he's actually fought some like amateur boxers too, like actual professional. Like he's
that's what I mean. Like his camp doesn't put him up against fights
right.
that he's like not actually capable of doing.
Now,
Anderson Silva was probably the best overall fighter he fought, and boxing's not his thing.
Right. And now he's going up against someone who, like, let's be fair, Tyson didn't win on like pure skill and technique.
No, of course.
And I do think he's going to be coming in there like fucking the last Rocky movie with just some hurting bombs. Like, oof. I don't know. Are they both going to pull their punches just for the payday? Like, Tyson?
Did you see their face-to-face, by the way? Oh, God. It's not a flattering picture for Tyson.
He's
58.
I know, but it's not flattering. I don't know if you can try and find it, Logan.
He been punch a lot.
I think he was walking with a cane 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
He had a fight in 2020.
I was about to say, he fought Holyfield in 2020, I thought. They had like a rematch.
It was Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, it was Roy Jones Jr.?
Yeah.
Oh, right. And like he tweeted out, like Jake Paul had like his first match as like a pre-match card at that fight.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So, here's what I'll say though. It's like
That's why I'm like, this could be like a final match for both of them and a retirement fight.
He's going to be 58. He's not
payday from Netflix.
He's not in shape right now, but trust me, I'm not going to view the body and judge him now because Mike Tyson's a professional. He will get in shape. That's not the question.
Yeah, no, Tyson will come ready to fight. Like
the interesting thing here is you got the 27-year-old, so you can make the age argument that he's fighting an over-the-hill boxer, although the most talented boxer he's ever fought, an over-the-hill guy. So it's just preposterous to have these odds the way they're going to be. And you could also say that Mike Tyson's the most professional fighter he's ever fought, the biggest knockout threat he's ever fought. And Jake Paul's never taken this sport serious because if he had, he wouldn't be fighting celebrities and MMA fighters. So that's what I find most interesting is no matter where you fall on who's going to win and who should be favored or where's your interest, you can make the case for either fighter. And that's what makes this fight a must-see.
My thing is, outside of money, it can only hurt Jake Paul. And I feel like a lot of fights are like that for him.
I said that as well. Mm-hmm. Because if Jake goes in there and destroys Mike Tyson, if he destroys him,
It's just going to be
He
another,
beat up a senior citizen.
It's just going to be another like tomato can argument again.
Or people would even say like, "Oh, was it fixed or was it a publicity?"
Right? Was it fixed for the money? Was it trying to give Mike Tyson money, get a money grab from Netflix? Like.
So I don't know if you guys.
That's my thought. I'm on that train. That's a great comment, but I still want I still want Mike Tyson to knock him out, if only because.
So I don't know if you guys follow RG3 on Twitter, but yesterday morning he did show some drilling footage of Tyson, how he's moving at 57. He's faster than Jake Paul.
RG3 had a much more important tweet today, okay? Or last night, whatever it was.
So I
more important.
I will say Mike Tyson, from a technical standpoint, can definitely outbox Jake Paul at this point.
Yeah, he could.
If
Tyson comes in ready, he can totally win that fight.
I was going to say,
that's the other big thing. Because, like, we all agree, if Tyson comes in ready, which we all assume he will be, he can win that fight.
Oh, yeah, by the way, that's a huge signing for free agency.
Jake Paul's favored at basically everywhere you can bet.
So, Donnie, which tweet of RG3's was more important?
There it is. The Dragon Ball one. Toriyama.
There's a great way to end the show. Like, peace to Toriyama.
Yes.
Rip.
The true founder of Shonen Jump manga.
One of the great mangaka. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
For sure.
Right up there with Oda and Kishimoto.
I do want to go back to the fight really quickly, though, because I do think if this fight's taken serious, Mike Tyson should win this fight.
I agree.
He looks like he could, yeah.
And for Jake Paul to be favored, like, if the closer this gets to the fight, if Tyson is still an underdog,
that's why this fight.
I don't see how we don't make a bet on that. Like, I just don't. Like, I just to feel good, I'd put a bet on an underdog Mike Tyson. When was the last time you got to put a bet on an underdog Mike Tyson? Evan?
Probably never legally.
Evan. It would have been in the Bird versus Magic era.
Donnie has because Donnie wasn't even he wasn't even thought of.
I might not have been around when it was. Like, to be fair,
legally probably never. Come on, let's be honest.
Like, you could always bet legally.
Okay, but
Vegas has been around since before we were born, dude.
Evan's stayed the most quiet, but you tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. This fight's a circus. Right or wrong?
Oh, it's absolutely a fucking circus.
It's a massive, massive.
Jake Paul knows his character. His character is he's going to fight people, and it's going to be somebody who's going to be great.
I hope
you want him to be knocked out.
Okay. I hope Netflix gets all of their comedians to do all the stuff and gets Joe Rogan to do, like, commentary and shit for the fight. I hope he gets all of them to do it and, like, makes it look like Dennis Miller doing Monday Night Football.
By the way,
that's what I want. Like, I want it to look like that. Because, this is Netflix saying, hey, look at us do a professional sport really well. NFL, we can do Thursday Night Football, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Say everything. Say, here's $1 billion.
Well, let's be honest. This will be Netflix's biggest sports venture.
They're doing all this live sports stuff.
It's a great
live sport,
It's a great interest marker for what the didn't they buy? Was it WWE Raw they bought?
Yeah.
It's a great, hey, this is coming.
And the UFC owns so there's immediate crossover. But I'm talking about from a live competitive standpoint. This honestly is Netflix's big, like, coming out party, if you will. But like I said, I follow the sport, so I can go 30 minutes and break down the actual intricacies of this of the thing. But I do want to kind of go rapid fire to close up shop. So it's a circus.
Before we get there, Logan, I just want to address Juno. Technically, the Paul brothers were Disney stars, so I want to see a Disney broadcast.
Yeah, I was about to say, I want Cartoon Network or Disney. Which one was it? It was Disney, yeah.
Disney,
Let's do a Disney broadcast. We need to get Miley Cyrus in there. Fuck Taylor Swift. Like, let's do this the right way. Yeah. Let's pull back Hillary Duff, bitches. Yeah.
Yes.
No, Netflix is
Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake. We'll go all the way back to the Mickey Mouse Club, motherfuckers.
No, Netflix is not co-promoting this.
You got to do this like you got to.
I think it'd be the best way to do it.
You got to do this like the NFL Super Bowl halftime show. If you're not getting someone who's 20 years past their prime to do the halftime show, you ain't done it right.
But
We need,
I do have
90s Disney. All
I
right.
do have a good follow up though. So if you're gonna capitalize on your first live, because they've done a lot of like doc series, like F1 was a big hit for them. You know, they've done a couple like crossover events like the match. They did
Red
the
Sox are
their
having a big
quarterback.
series on Netflix as well coming up.
Yeah, they've done a lot of doc series, and they have like the tennis event, but they've done a lot of niche sports in terms of live events, right? This will be a first like tune-in global event because like fighting is very global. Evan knows that as well. Being he trains and BBJ and different things like that. This is much bigger on an international level than I think gets credit. How would you program Netflix a week out? Like, are you debuting your favorite best shows? Are you running like promotional? Like, what
Do they have any other like Creed or Rocky movies on Netflix?
I do believe they have the Creed movies.
Well,
Like,
just
have
promote
the
that.
Creed and the Rocky stuff. I would definitely have all
Yeah.
of that. I put, but that's why I'm thinking like if they're gonna do an event like this, like do a sporting event, like make it a big fiasco. You already have all these contracts with all these comedians. Make it one of their shows and be like, hey, I want you to come help with the pregame, postgame. I want like. What would you say if it was?
And they're all going to want to watch it anyway.
Joe Rogan and Tom Segura and someone else as the three guys doing the fucking play-by-play for the fight.
Or Shane Zill,
Shane Gillis, something like. Let's say Shane Gillis is like the dude, like talking to him in the freaking tunnel before the match. Like treat it like a fucking professional wrestling match at that point.
I agree.
That's what it should be. It is a circus, but
if it's gonna be a circus, treat it like pro wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, but make it the biggest circus, right? Like make it the WrestleMania event. Don't treat it like a slideshow.
Like it's supposed to happen in like late July. So like you're talking right after All-Star break of baseball. There's literally nothing going on. That was when I was literally thinking that's when we would do like our ranking show for best ball to get ready to do one.
Yeah. So after this event, Netflix is successful. How? Like, how do you capitalize on it? Everyone watches they get the Netflix.
They actually get to subscribe. They get the views.
Right.
They can show we had football level viewers, which is really hard to get. Let's say they have above basketball and other sports, but like not quite football. Football is really hard. You get like 20 million viewers for shitty Monday night football games. So it's like, it's hard to beat football. But like, let's say you get something close to that's better than everything else. Better than the 7 million that watch an NBA game.
Right.
Something like that.
Is this a debut for a playoff game for the NFL? Like, what is
this would be what they would show. Like, look, we have the production. We are able to put it on. Right. People watch it. We'll give you this amount. Let's put these games on our platform.
Yeah, what would be a great thing?
Like they've already done it with Amazon, so you show that a streaming service can do it.
You know what fits perfectly with Netflix probably as a sport? MLB. Because, god damn it, only old people have Netflix nowadays anyway.
That's a bad take.
Are we going to end on that? I think we should end on that.
No, we're going to end on the fact that Mike Tyson's going to one-punch man.
How expensive Netflix is for just to at least get ad-free? Like, fuck that. I don't even have Netflix, so I'm not going to see the fight.
I still pay for Netflix.
Free trial it.
Not worth it. Because then I have to remember to cancel it, and it's a pain.
You could get Rocket Mortgage. It'll cancel it for you. Not sponsored.
I wasn't expecting a Rocket Mortgage joke.
Hashtag not sponsored.
No, but I gotta circle back because Netflix is the leader in the streaming wars right now, by far.
I was about to say, like they have a lot of shit.
It gets so much hate.
It gets
hate. I'll admit a lot of people have gotten rid of it, but like because there's so many, like every other channel has now got their own thing. Like now you have Paramount Plus. Now you have, it's not just Netflix or Hulu.
You know what also gets a lot of hate, Donnie? The NFL Sunday Ticket.
But
and YouTube survives on it. Like it was a premium ad for a lot of people.
But I'm pretty sure Hulu is now above Netflix. I could be wrong, but I think maybe
They're
not.
probably close. Like those are the two big ones I think of. But
And
like, you're right.
Amazon,
You are
Amazon
right.
Prime Video should
I was
just
about
have
to say,
more.
you're right. There's Amazon Prime, but then there's also, like I said, all the other channels. There's Paramount, there's Peacock, like there's all of those.
Yeah, but Hulu comes with Disney Plus, and
If you go with the bundle,
you can bundle it with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus.
that's a pretty big difference.
Which I think is what you should do if you're going to do it. Like,
if you get the bundle with no ads with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, $25 a month with Hulu. Not not sponsored.
I think that's a good deal.
I think we've.
That's a really good deal, especially considering what Netflix charges now.
I think we've hit the wall on our conversation.
It's yeah, I know. It's not sports anymore. We've derailed so much, but it's fine.
Well, I mean, the boxing match is going to be on Netflix anyway, so it's fairly relevant. And plus,
I hate Netflix so much. We have it in our house.
I got a feeling all of us are going to be able to watch it. Wink, wink.
Oh, I'm going to be able to watch it. I have Netflix in my house.
Plus, when we got on the Hulu topic,
I'm not saying I'm going to stream it to all of us, but I am saying, wink, wink.
Discord's a cool tool.
Discord is a thing. I love Discord. You should join Discord.
I'm not saying you should go to the dark web. I'm just saying there are places on the dark web which you could.
Hey, Discord's not part of the dark web. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't say that.
It's true. Hey, but look, so we did the Dynasty talk. We're not afraid to talk to fringes. I know we were talking about doing some more personal, in-depth stories so then you guys can kind of learn the backstories of all of us. So that way in the NFL season, you have a wide view of why we have pillars, kind of our philosophies, our thoughts. If you really want to go back, me and Gov did some deep dives into DFS in the early days and kind of structures and ideas we can do. Gov also has his own Twitch channel, which I do promote in the description. You guys should go and check out. Maybe I don't do this enough, but again, liking and subscribing does go a long way. Not only does it help this podcast, but it puts more emphasis on the type of content you do enjoy. So if you like this content, it's going to promote more of this type of content. We didn't get on to Evan's last topic, and I don't want to bring it up now because I do think it's a serious one. So we are going to lead in with kind of the evolution of sports and what it means for women, because I do think there's a cool with March Madness coming up. I actually think with Caitlin Clark and that kind of publicity, you could argue that the women's game is more important and popular at this point than even men's March Madness, which doesn't really bother me because I just love the sport of basketball. So I think next week it's actually more relevant because there's a baseball component to that as well. And I'd love to do a deep dive into that and get your guys' thoughts because the NBA 2K kind of flirted with that idea. And I'll leave that as a teaser. And it didn't work out well, but that's because they didn't promote it well. And they didn't, they kind of promoted it with the wrong intention where I think MLB and the show are doing it correct. But again, that's a teaser for next week's episode because I really do want to just give Evan the floor for a good opening segment on that. Are you down for that, Evan?
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a great lead-in topic. I wanted to take on at least MLB The Show's 24 upcoming Road to the Show featuring women. Finally, where it's a fresh, hot new topic, but you know we can wait till next week as baseball starts to.
And I was going to tie it into March Madness because I'm being honest, women's March Madness right now is more popular than men's because the women's game has had more senior players, has had Caitlin Clark's emergence. So we know the players. There's that personal connection. I mentioned it, having more deep dives, learning each other's backstories and kind of promoting ourselves for our biggest NFL DFS lineup builder show. I think it all matters. I don't want to really hold up any more time, though.
I don't know why I'm doing this.
This is the amount of March Madness in baseball I'll watch this year.
Now I know why I'm holding this up, because I don't usually watch a lot of March Madness, but I'll probably get to some baseball, so maybe one game.
One game.
I watch if the Red Sox make the playoffs.
You can get them at plus 280 right now, by the way.
That's a bad bet.
Now you know we went too long. With that face, go get the people out of here. Say good night. How we doing? All that stuff. like and subscribe. Keep following. We'll keep giving you guys content. We can't promise it will be good, but at least we'll wrap up now and come back next week.
No, I promise it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm not
Wink,
gonna
wink, nudge, nudge. Oh my God.
better
Yeah.
than never. I can't promise, but we are consistent. That's one thing I can say. So
We're
again,
consistently silly.
once a week during the off season, we'll bring you whatever we got, including silliness. Good night, guys.
Oh yeah. Thanks for everyone in chat. Peace out, everyone.
Good night, everybody.